The season of emancipation is celebrated by Barbadians and the government of Barbados as an entire season that runs from April the 14th, which starts with the anniversary of the Buster Revolution in 1816, and runs right down to August the 27th, which is the celebration of Jackie-Oka. Now, this is important because wrapped within the season of emancipation is the Crop Over Festival. And we did it that way because we wanted Barbadians to understand that the Crop Over Festival was not just a festival, but it's a festival that is rooted within the concept of a season of emancipation. In fact, what we celebrate as Kadooment is really that day when emancipation was happening for the enslaved, and the day in which they went out and celebrate and made merry. So we turn it into an entire celebration which we call Kadooment Day, the end of that entire process. And what the government of Barbados did over the last 2-3 years is to turn it into, to ensure that the season of the crop over sits within the season of emancipation. So the season is the season of emancipation. So that's the first thing. And why season of emancipation? Why is this important? Because in 1838, August the 1st, this was one of the most important points in our history as Afro-Caribbean people. This was a time when our ancestors were set free, when they were allowed to walk off of the plantation. But more importantly, it is what transpired after that. So they were set free in 1838, so that's the day we celebrate. But what we determined to do is that since 1838, there were some significant points of reference within our own history that were created by the descendants of our ancestors, which we felt was necessary for us to celebrate as a people, which is also very important to the concept of emancipation and freedom. So we have April the 14th, the Buster Revolution. Then we have April the 28th, National Heroes Day. We go into July the 26th, where we look at the Day of National Significance. We also have August the 1st, which is the Signature Day, Emancipation Day. We also celebrate August the 17th, which is Marcus Garvey Day. We feel it's an important day where we look at the whole concept of economic freedom and the concepts that Garvey pushed in terms of economic freedom. We also celebrate within that season August the 23rd, UN Day for the amelioration of slavery, August the 23rd. And then, as I said, we conclude with August the 27th, Jackie-Oka Day. And, you know, emancipation, as I always say, is a process. After August the 1st, 1838, when the proclamation was signed for freedom for our people, it didn't begin and end with just that signature. Emancipation is a process that we are still engaging. And, you know, it's wrapped up in so many things when we look at our educational system. There's so many bad legacies that were left during the process of slavery that we still have to overcome as a people. And why I say this? Only recently, you know, the government of Barbados ensured that young men could go to school, wear their African hair, Rasta people with their locks, free to wear their locks. Now these are important elements of our freedom that we're still fighting for. So if it was that after 1838 we were fully free, these are things that we will still have to be engaging now as a society and fighting for as a society. But we're still engaged in this fight. So there were some negative legacies that were left, some negative policies that were put on the table during the enslavement period that we still engage in society. So it means that because of this, because slavery was a process, and emancipation has to be a process. So that is just one of the things that we were able to do as a society.
Rip we away from the land, make we work for white man. Rip we away from the civilization, make we work on a damn plantation. African, you better know yourself, eh? I said, African, you better know yourself. Free up yourself, brother African. Free up yourself, no.
Laying of wreaths and flowers has always been and continue to be one of those symbolic ways in which we honor our revered dead. And so the process of laying wreaths by the Buster statue is one of those symbolic ways of paying homage to the ancestors, not only Buster as an individual, but the whole ancestry of the enslaved who fought alongside him and was part of that enslavement process. Also, the concept of burning incense is also to clean the space and to clear the space. So those are, we are ritualistic people. And at the end of the day, African people are ritualistic people, whether we like it or not. The way we do simple things like cooking, the way we deal with funerals, the way we deal with weddings, is all ritual. Sometimes people misinterpret ritual as, some ceremony that includes some obesh thing, as we would like to say. But, ritual sometimes is an everyday practice. You do certain things in a certain order to get a similar outcome. Emancipation is a process that we as a society must continue to engage in, to break down all of these negative coded behaviors that were implanted in our subconscious as the people, in the way we treat one another, in the way in which we engage each other as individuals, as families. They systematically broke families apart in a way now that we as families, how we treat each other. You'll find sometimes as soon as a young lady gets pregnant, parents put her out. You have to leave my house. As soon as a young man reaches a certain age, we discard our children. So these are bad traits and bad things that were somehow coded within our DNA that we kept. So why do we celebrate emancipation? Because we have to remind ourselves. We have to constantly remind ourselves that there are elements of slavery that we must continue to break, that there are bad policies which we kept that are ingrained in our educational system, ingrained in our health system, ingrained in our economic policies that we must break. Look, and when we talk about economics, we as countries, we are locked in a debt cycle because of slavery, and they ensured that. So, we are almost like beholden to the same people who kept us in slavery from the North and from Europe. We now have to go back and beg them for funding to develop our societies. And this is a cycle that is continuing, ongoing. So when we do that, when we take their money, we end up in a debt cycle. We almost manage our economies based on the debt cycle. And this is things we have to break. So that what the Prime Minister is doing now, the Prime Minister Motley is doing now, is almost liberating. She's almost re-engaging the ancestral and biblical cord in terms of re-engaging Africa to rebuild an economy in a way that it should have been done after 1838. So this whole process of moving south towards Africa or to east towards Africa to rebuild our economies through trade and engaging Africa in financial development is the way it should have been done, rather than going north and taking loans from North America and continuing in a debt cycle. So we're going in the right trajectory. So this new process that's being engaged by the government of Barbados reminds us of why emancipation is important, why we must continue to engage emancipation as a process. So when we celebrate Emancipation Day, we are celebrating trade with Africa. We're celebrating new financial institutions and financial arrangements with Africa. This is what it is about. We are celebrating breaking those debt cycles with the North and with their financial institutions that forever kept us in debt. So all of this is wrapped up in what emancipation means. So, sometimes people think about emancipation, just think about slavery. And they just think about slavery as what it was, a process, and coming to an end in 1838. But slavery did not end in 1838. Emancipation was not the beginning and the end of slavery, because it didn't end. They knew that they had to find a means for this process to continue. So what we have to do now in terms of how we build up our economies and how we build up our society as developing countries is intrinsically important to the concept and the process of emancipation.
I have now internalized who I am and know that I am the emancipator of myself. I am making it happen. Ashe. Ashe.